Hey YouTube, it's ICU, and today we have a really important update to discuss in the realm of iOS and jailbreaking. This morning, after almost 3 weeks, Apple has seeded the second beta iteration of iOS 9.2.1 to registered developers, and the corresponding public beta will likely be available shortly. So opening up Safari here, this is just Apple's developer portal, which is at least partially accessible without having to sign in to a developer account. You can see iOS 9.2.1 Beta 2, and for the post date, it is today, January 4th, 2016. So since this is a 0.1 update, meaning iOS 9.2.1, why has it taken Apple 3 weeks to issue the second beta, and why isn't it available to the public yet, considering the next jailbreak is heavily contingent upon iOS 9.2.1, which we're going to get into in just a second? Well, as I mentioned in my last few jailbreak update videos, Apple has taken the past few weeks off of releasing new software updates in light of the holidays. So that doesn't necessarily indicate any sort of major features, but what can we expect from the firmware once it is available to the public? Currently, we don't know what changes 9.2.1 has in store for us. Considering it is such a small and minor incremental update, it's likely that it will just focus on performance improvements. And if we scroll down a little bit, iOS 9.2 was issued to address issues as well as kind of implement a few minor new features for Apple Music, News, Mail, iBooks, and more. So it is definitely possible, considering 9.2 is such a huge update, that it introduced new issues that need to be addressed with iOS 9.2.1, which is the reason why we're actually going to get the firmware. Now, what about jailbreaking? Because that's the biggest thing right now on this channel. That's what most of you are concerned about. It appears as though TaiG as well as Pangu are working on new jailbreak utilities, specifically TaiG. That's what we've mostly been focused on. And the reason for that is simply because of the report from 3K Assistant, which previously confirmed the team's plans to jailbreak iOS 9.2. If you happen to miss any of the latest jailbreak news updates on my channel, just be sure to check them out. I will actually have a link for you guys right now in the cards, as well as down below in the more info and an annotation format, to my iOS 9.2 jailbreak update playlist, which will contain all of the most recent jailbreak updates, including what you need to know to get caught up to speed with what we're talking about right now. So if you have yet to watch the latest 3 or so videos in that playlist, I highly recommend doing so now and then coming back to this video right where you left off. Okay, so assuming you know what went on with 3K Assistant, one of TaiG's known associates, let's go ahead and move forward. See, iOS 9.2.1 is likely an integral part in the release of a brand new jailbreak for iOS 9.1 and up, specifically 9.2, and in this case, of course, again, iOS 9.2.1. See, jailbreak developers, TaiG is no exception, like to release new jailbreak utilities for the latest firmwares if they can, since we know iOS 9.2.1 is on the horizon and likely doesn't need to go through many more beta testing phases. They have their sights set on the firmware instead of specifically targeting iOS 9.2. It is the smart thing to do, because if they were to issue a jailbreak right now for iOS 9.2 instead of 9.2.1, chances are good that Apple would have ample opportunity to patch the vulnerabilities exploited in said jailbreak utility by the time 9.2.1 is released to the public. So what would be better, doing that and having a jailbreak that only lasts for about a week or two, or waiting for iOS 9.2.1 and having a jailbreak that lasts for significantly longer? Because while a new firmware will inevitably patch the jailbreak, either way you slice it, if they wait for iOS 9.2.1, then Apple has to put out another firmware through testing phases, because they're not simply going to issue an update immediately following the release of a new jailbreak, again, unless they have time to patch it while it's still in beta phases, because they don't want to go through something like they had to with iOS 8.0.1, where they had to immediately pull the firmware because it didn't go through extensive testing first. So Apple loves to run their firmwares these days through their paces before actually issuing them to the public, and worry that it may cause more complications than it solves. So iOS 9.2.1 is definitely key, provided that the firmware firmware doesn't close any of the vulnerabilities that TaiG intends on exploiting in their jailbreak. And what I mean by that is that Pangu rushed their jailbreak for 9.0.2 even though iOS 9.1 was on the horizon, because at the time 9.1 was in beta stages and they had discovered that it closed one of the key vulnerabilities, actually the kernel exploit that the group was planning on using for their jailbreak, so they had to rush it out for the latest public firmware at the time, 9.0.2, and the jailbreak was of course patched by 9.1. So provided 9.2.1 doesn't bring about a similar scenario, we can most definitely expect a jailbreak to be released for said firmware once it is available to the public. And currently we don't know when that's going to be. Again, it is in beta 2 stages right now, and that could be it. Apple could release it after beta 2 to the public within the next week or so. We honestly don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, and that does make sense that it would be released sooner than other firmwares that have gone through beta stages recently, because it is such a minor and incremental update. Again, guys, we don't even know the full extent of its changes because they're likely so trivial. So with that in mind, what can we expect once 9.2.1 is out? Well, the closest thing that we can actually compare it to is actually iOS 8.1.x and the jailbreak specifically for 8.1.1, which again patched the Pangu jailbreak for iOS 8. At that time, TaiG also came to our aid and they released a jailbreak 12 days after 8.1.1 was available, so a little less than 2 weeks. So if we had to give a time frame for when a new jailbreak would drop after 9.2.1 is released, it would likely be within about 1 to 2 weeks. So just be sure to stay tuned, click the subscribe button below next to my channel name if you guys have yet to, that way you'll be completely notified. You can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. Also, I do need to mention, guys, that this isn't as long as we've had to wait for a new jailbreak in the past, and we're waiting right now for good reason. Remember, compatibility. If you guys were around from the days of iOS 4 to iOS 7, you are no stranger to the long waits for a new jailbreak. Sometimes we would have to wait for about 6 to 9 plus months. We definitely don't have to do that this time around, thanks to both TaiG and Pangu. So be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up if you appreciate all of their awesome work. They're doing an incredible job as of late, keeping us in the world of jailbreaking as updated as possible. And for those of you who are interested in actually installing 9.2.1 beta 2 right now, it's very simple. You can actually follow the procedure that I outline in my video discussing the first beta of 9.2.1. I will have it linked for you guys right now on your screens in card and annotation formats. And finally, for a chance to win a brand new 4th gen Apple TV, my giveaway for which should be concluding this week, just be sure to navigate to freeappsfast.com inside of mobile Safari and sign up. Once you do, download sponsored apps for points, just so long as you do earn points. Then go to the 3rd tab at the bottom and you see that referral link. Take what appears after the equal symbol and post it in the comment section of my Apple TV 4th gen unboxing video. I will have it linked right now. And until next time, this is ICU signing out.